evening, November Foxtrot.
Hello.
Welcome. We're joined by Dan this week from Frontline Events.
Hello, Dan.
So we're going to be having lots of interesting chats because Dan has already been regaling us with loads of stories even before the show starts. So,
yeah. And I was trying not to laugh when the camera came back on. It's a bit like Naked Gun. You were like, "Here we go," and then I was just still looking at you both like, "It's not moved yet."
No.
Hi, Carl, Daniel Brewer, Pony Tony, Harry, Roscoe, British Lumber Company, Kenny. Welcome. Punish one,
Welcome
first
all.
in. Welcome. Lance isn't going to be on the show again tonight. He's unfortunately had to dive off to work, so he will be back soon.
Yes.
But we are missing him. So, hi, James.
I've got a quick question. Just got a quick question there for the punished one. What did you do to earn that nickname?
He might be driving, so it might be quite a long time for him to reply.
Yeah, please put that in there. I want to know.
Yeah, let us know. Hi, Les. So if you have a question for Dan tonight, then please feel free to throw it in the chat. Put a little Q in front of it. It just helps us find them as we're going along. I don't think we've really got any news this week. So there was a knobber that obviously had a problem with Kenny. Kenny Rebel went by and shot him with a BB gun, which is an absolute dick move.
Well done. You get that. You get knobber of the week.
Hashtag knobber. But we're gonna skip the news tonight because we're gonna go straight into chatting about a mile to unless. Oh, we got a little bit of news. What, the event?
Yeah. So
if you want to mention that, do you want the full news intro for that?
No, it's fine. We'll call this sub news. So yeah, obviously we still got the enemy event in the first weekend of August. Please try and book on as quickly as you can. We need to get numbers up so we can get Tony and Hazel at Rift informed of food and allocations and things like that. So obviously, if you are thinking of going, please get booked on as quickly as possible, just so we can get the figures and stuff sorted over the next couple of weeks. Don't delay, because you probably won't miss out, but
we don't want you to miss out.
Yeah, we don't want you to miss out.
I'm writing that speech down. I'm taking notes there for my next time I have to get people to book on.
Yeah. Just book on. Book on, or you'll upset us.
Please, I don't want you to miss
You
out.
probably won't miss out, but don't like, because you might miss it.
Yeah, you might be. You might miss out.
Right, we're talking tonight to Dan, as I said, about the Frontline Events as a whole, but we had the absolute privilege to attend a mile to Hiesville. Apologies if I'm butchering that as a name of the event, but it was an absolutely cracking event. I'd never been to a reenactment event, period. And then a reenactment airsoft was also a whole new thing for me. But we got to go along on the Sunday. We tried to kind of incorporate a little bit of dress up. We kind of arrived as our French farmers as much as possible to sort of blend in a bit. Yeah. But before we kind of kick off, Dan, I just wanted to share that I arrived in this kind of country road and sort of parked up, and then I'm just presented with Andy dressed as a French farmer and yourself dressed in full parachute gear and everything like that. It was just wicked. It was so cool.
Yeah. You're lucky that most of the black that was on my face had been sweat off through the night, so you could actually see it was me. But I'm just trying to grab the picture quickly. I've got a picture of you. So it's very similar to what I witnessed when I arrived, which is very cool. So do you want to kind of just give us a summary of the event, and we can kind of roll into it from there? So just like a really basic breakdown was last year someone said to me, "Oh, why don't we do something for the 80th of D-Day?" And my initial thought was like, no, it's going to be way too complicated, night jumps and everything else. And they persuaded me otherwise, because I'm easy to persuade. I'm easily led astray, as some people will know. Anyway, so we thought, okay, we'll do this. And me and Mike sat down and we chatted about it for maybe a good hour and a half about how we could make it work. How do we simulate mist drops? How can we simulate, being in Normandy? So we came up with the idea of sending guys out on essentially a navigational exercise rather than pushing them out of a van. We talked about making prop flat guns. We talked about making post and fake money and insurance forms and letters and things like that. And then it just sort of grew legs. So then we started to look into it and started to research a specific part of Operation Overlord. And we found Operation Albany with the 101st Airborne, because we know we've got a lot of players who have that uniform. And then we picked a certain part of that, and we looked at Hiesville, where they wanted to set up a base of future operations, an aid station, and it was surrounded by fields that would have massive amounts of gliders land there in the afternoon. And we thought, that's actually really achievable, because we can make the Rommel's asparagus, we can put them out in the fields, and we can get the guys to blow them up. And hopefully the Germans will protect them. And it went really well. We had the flat guns as a bonus objective. The German HQ was another objective, another bonus. And we didn't even make it that far. So, and that's essentially what we did. And it sort of grew legs from there. And we started doing all the admin tasks. We had an acquisition order amongst us where someone had to acquire a dummy and dress the dummy and make a parachute for him. And this would all sort of, lead to some more storyline later on. So when we had the mission briefing, we had Sergeant O'Hara, his name was, who just happened to be missing. And he was actually already up in the tree as a dummy. And he had some of our demolitions equipment. So we couldn't do anything until we found him. But yeah, it grew legs. It grew a lot bigger than what I thought it would have done. And the real reason for doing it was, it's the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And we want to give these guys a slice, a tiny, tiny little bit of a taste on the end of their tongue of what it might have been like to jump into Normandy on June 6, to experience that feeling of being lost and outnumbered and tired and confused. Get yourself to a rally point and then still know that you're lost and confused and outnumbered, even though there's 30 of you. There's thousands of Germans in the area. And we wanted to give people a slice of that. And the feedback we've got is that every single person felt that. Some people have come back with little changes and big changes, but they've all said the same thing at the beginning. And they've all said, I will never forget this. And I've made some great mates through it. And that's why I think I won't actually change it too much, because that's what counts. You'll remember that forever.
I mean, for me, but when we were standing there, say on the Sunday morning, watching your guys kind of move off from their harbour area out into the field, and kind of, I mean, I know we've obviously jazzed these photos up a little bit in terms of like the colours and bits and pieces like that, but it was just eerie almost, just kind of watch that, and because there was the farm building in the background as well. And if you've ever watched any of the Band of Brothers films, or not films, sorry, the TV series, or any war film or anything like that, it was so similar. So I mean, to actually witness that happening, it kind of grounded it a lot more, because films and things like that, people jazz films up. We were watching people that had put so much time and effort into their kit. I mean, you had the original kit lists.
Yeah. Well, I found a very blurry image of an original kit list that was sent to me by someone else, and we remade that, and then thought, well, there's a lot of things on it they don't need. So we made our own kit list based off of the original one, and so that was why they were carrying what they were carrying, because it was based off of the original kit list. What they'd done there, you say like they've put so much effort into their kit. That was a little bit of encouragement from us, but also their own motivation, which is brilliant to see. And then also the field modifications that everyone did the day before throughout the training, like adding tape to reinforce things and tying extra laces on because they knew things would fall off. And that was fantastic. That could never be scripted. That was through people doing it themselves. And it was absolutely surreal. For me, it was being in that rally point in the morning. I mean, you can't get any closer to real soldiering than not being able to sleep when you're cold. And that really, landed home.
Yeah, because like when I turned up in the morning, and you guys were just getting their kit on after like trying to get some sleep, and there was a lot of blurry eyes. But as soon as most of them put their kit on, they laid back down and got into a sort of semi-comfortable position and fell back to sleep again until Mike turned up.
Yeah,
they
I'll
had
tell
a
you,
good half
Wake
an
them
hour's
up to
nap.
clarify.
one of the biggest skills as a soldier is being able to just sleep absolutely anywhere.
Mhm.
And a lot of the guys were shocked that I could fall asleep so quickly, so easily, and so comfortably, and then wake up and just be like, "Yeah, I'm good to go." Yeah, I mean that image there just it paints 1,000 words, or writes 1,000 words. I'm chuckling at it in my head, but those pictures they're about as close to reality as you're going to get.
Yeah.
I've been to public shows before and never ever seen reenactors sleeping like that.
Oh, you never went to one that I went to then?
So you obviously mentioned like the time frame, because this, I believe, was your first kind of long extended event.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because most of our games, we will start at, let's say, 10 o'clock on a Saturday. So everyone arrives on the Friday. We'll have a bit of a social. We'll start the game at 10 o'clock on a Saturday. We'll play up till like 4 o'clock. Then we'll knock it on the head, have a fire and another social, and then continue again on the Sunday. And throughout the Sunday, dribs and drabs of people just, they fade out as the day goes on until it finishes. With this one, to really, truly appreciate how hard it would have been for squads on D-Day, it was intended to be hard, and it was intended to be long, and it was our first experience. And I was a bit worried about it because a lot of the guys who were coming, I don't think they anticipated how hard it was going to be. I am surprised that no one got lost or separated at night. Everyone made it to the rally point, albeit a little bit over time, or whether they achieved anything or not, or whether they felt they achieved anything or not. But yeah, it was our first actual milsim that ran completely straight, and I was shocked at how well it went, which actually fills me with confidence, not just in us being able to organise it, but for mainly the community being able to sort of put up with my crap as it is. So,
But it's like,
So
like when we were talking to the guys in the morning, they were like, I've had about 2 hours sleep, but I'm buzzing, like I'm ready to get going.
Yeah, I mean, I've never actually
really
seen the community chat booming like it is this week. Like you always get dribs and drabs of people saying, "Oh my god, that was really good," but the comment sections, when you guys posted those pictures up the other day, it just went mental. Like the amount of people talking, they're all changing their profile pictures, their cover photos. I've never ever seen that happen. So it must have really hit them on a personal level.
Yeah.
And not only
I was
that,
just gonna say,
when you appreciate history that much.
Yeah. Is this kind of intention for the longer events going to be a thing you take forward, or is that going to be kind of like maybe a niche thing you do every once in a while?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a niche thing. I really like the formula we have for the normal games because it gets people talking. With a game like the one we just did, the Germans and the Americans got separated near enough on Saturday morning. So they didn't speak to each other all weekend unless they were in combat. Whereas when we do our normal events, we encourage everyone to speak to everyone and socialize and make mates. That way, we treat it like a big family. So yeah, I would say it's going to be a niche thing. I'm already planning for next year's version of what we did last weekend. But I don't think it'll be more than once a year. Definitely not. I mean, not only that, but the amount of admin as well, having a day job and then trying to run all the admin around as well. James Pinder, he run a day job and he was doing just as much work in his own time in his workshop building those 2 flat guns, if not more work than what he was doing in his day job. When people are working that hard, you can't expect that to happen all the time. The guy did an absolutely amazing job, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it.
No, but also like you giving out like money, invasion money, letters from home, pictures, things like that, just to add that little bit. It has no bearing on the actual game itself, other than the immersive side of it, which to me brings it up to another level.
Yeah, I mean, we cheated a little bit with the letters. We got an AI program to write the letters. because there was only one that I genuinely
who would
wrote.
use AI?
Yeah.
There's only one that I did genuinely write. I'm not going to tell which one it was because they'll laugh at it. But I like the fact that they don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's only one that was genuinely written. All the other ones, Will managed to get an AI program to write the letters, and then we handpicked them from there. And then we found some funny images to go with them, and tarted them up in a 1940s fashion. And I found that what that did is it encouraged people to go and speak to each other when they got the post. So they were all queued up in alphabetical order, as you used to do when you used to get paid in the army, waiting to come to me to sign for their money. And the platoon sergeant went down the line calling out people's names and giving them the post. Was that Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Helga?
I'm not sure who it was, but he was very proud of the picture.
Yeah, I think that's one that we had printed off previously. That's very cool. Yeah, so as I was saying, yeah, so the platoon sergeant went down the line calling out people's names, and then they would have to answer up, and then they get their post. Then people gather round to see what it is that they've got, and that then encourages people to speak and laugh and get to know each other a bit more. And I could hear it, but I couldn't see it. I was too busy thinking, "Shit, will you shut up? I'm trying to concentrate here on my nice neat piles of money." But it's just that's what it was. But yeah, these little props, I think they did make a big difference, although they didn't impact the gameplay at all. It's just an extra detail.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's not part of the. It is part of the game, but it's more it's got no impact on how it ends or how it finishes. It just gives you that little bit of immersion into what you're actually doing for that.
Yeah, of course.
That
and I would say the game itself didn't really start until Sunday morning. The rest of it was an immersive build-up. For instance, we did like a 2-hour set of orders with a full set of CSS in it. That was done on a PowerPoint presentation, but made to look like old projector slides with like ambient electricity noise and the slide turning. And we went through a full set of orders in order for every single person to completely understand what their operation was or what their mission was. And we managed to succeed in that one mission because it was briefed. And I think they managed to find the rally point so easily because I highlighted tree lines on an aerial photograph. And we had set procedures for how to get to the rally point. If you'd have come from the wrong way, you'd have been shot. So all these little things, they do add up to not only the slightly better, more fluid game during the night, but then also all these little things that get to keep as well.
I think you find actually that these things do influence the game more than you think, because I get obviously that having a letter doesn't mean that you're going to be able to attack someone over there more effectively, but that kind of communication that you're having with other people and you're sharing it and you're boosting that morale and you're building those relationships and things like that, and then the inspiration that it has when you leave that event to go, oh yeah, you know what, I want to do this again. What could I do differently? Oh, I want to learn that before I go to that event next time. So I think it does have that kind of unmeasurable impact.
Yeah.
Because I always like doing, the little kind of like Easter eggs and things like that, sort of at events and things. And that's reading some of the letters and looking at the guys kind of going, do you want some money? Because we were wandering around as the French. They were like, oh, can we buy some stuff from you with the francs? So it was cool to see, people were properly getting in with it. So
that's cool. I didn't even know the guys were doing that, so that's again, that's another layer of immersion. So that's fantastic.
But it's like when we stumbled across a group of paratroopers that had been captured, and we were taking some photos of them. They were, when they were being searched, the Germans were finding the letters and looking at them and reading them and stuff. So I think with that also gave the German soldiers like, oh, actually, hang on a minute, right? We now know this person's name, or an idea of this person's name, and it worked really well. So you can see them like holding the letters and things like that after they've been handed back. And I just think that added it. Yeah. and I think that actually it worked rather well.
That's really cool. I actually had a picture of the commander of the 1058 Grenadiers, who were the Germans that were in the area in reality. And I was planning on, if I managed to kill Harvey, get the little picture out next to him and be like, is that him? And it wasn't him, because he was killed by the 82nd. But I wouldn't have known any different at the time. So it was one of those little things I was just going to throw in there. But I didn't actually see him all weekend. I only saw maybe 3 Germans up close all weekend. So again, that's actually quite realistic. I mean, in realistic firefights, you don't see the enemy. So yeah, it was really good. Yeah. And I didn't know that was happening, so that's fantastic, even to learn it now. So
no, it was proper cool. If anyone has any questions for Dan, then please feel free to throw them in the chat for a little cue. Taylor says that I got a letter and a photo, one ugly family I had.
Taylor, can you take a picture and stick it on the chat if it'll work, just so you can show everyone just how proud you are of your family in that picture.
Yeah. I know there was I'll see if I can find it, because I know that there was one posted on one of the Facebook pages, somebody sort of saying they were pleased to get back to their
community group.
Yeah, they were pleased to get back to their other half. There we go.
Andy, is that you?
Yeah, no, it's me. I had a shave. Mike, you weren't meant to give out that picture.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, when Steve was reading that out, I was in absolute stitches. We were all sat around in hollow squares, and he was reading this out, and it was just absolutely hilarious. I already knew what they said, but I'd forgotten. And just to hear someone reading it, he was doing it in the accent as if he was her. And it was really, really funny.
So, in terms of the event, you had people arriving on the Saturday. They arrived on the Friday.
Yeah, most people arrived on the Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. So, tell us about the stuff that you did on the Saturday, because obviously it didn't just jump straight into a gameplay event. You obviously did something a little bit different with this one.
Yeah. So on the Saturday morning, we actually had a Remembrance Parade. We had the Germans and the Americans lined up opposite each other, and we had a flak gun to simulate gunfire. And we did a memorial service for the fallen, not just for ours and the Americans, but for all soldiers. Because when you do an event like that, you've really got to highlight the fact that every single soldier that's ever served has gone through something similar, whether it be a Roman centurion on Hadrian's Wall, of all the places to be posted, or a modern soldier sitting in Brecon at the moment. They're all going through something similar. They're all debating their life choices at some point in the night. And we have to highlight that, there's a lot of soldiers that have given their lives. And even if they haven't died, I think they've given a large portion of their lives to serve. So it's important that we acknowledge that. So we did, and we very faithfully did that. After that, we managed to take the Americans away to go and do some training once they'd finally got all their kit together. And the Germans also went off to do their own things throughout the day. I still don't actually know what the Germans got up to. I imagine they did some training, because I did manage to see some of it from the top of the hill. But it looked like they were on holiday, as the Germans would have been, garrisoned nicely in France, suckling on the boobs of the French girlfriends and drinking wine and eating honey. So that's how it looked for me. Whereas we were the invading force, we were training hard the day before, learning how to do fire and maneuver, learning how to do section attacks, how to do the grenade stalk and post the grenade into a bunker. And the guys found it tough. It was hot. They were doing it in full kit. Then they went on to doing rehearsals. But yeah, we trained. We trained hard. I say we. I stood and watched them training hard and shouted at them.
The joys of.
But no, they did. They trained hard, and they actually really impressed me. There was times where they were doing it, and I honestly thought to myself, "There's trained soldiers that can't actually do what you're doing right now. They wouldn't be able to grasp the simple mechanics." And I think when I was a very, very junior soldier, I don't think I would have been able to do it either. So it was good just to watch them doing it, to learn those lessons and sort of appreciate how hard it is. They were doing section attacks over what effective was only about 30 meters. In real life, you could be doing it over hundreds of meters and crawling hundreds of meters. So it was good, very, very good to see. There was a lot of downtime for the Americans as well. They did have admin time. A lot of them chose not to sleep when they should have done. And then they went through orders later on. We did, everyone got ready, they got suited up. We had a lot of group photos as well, individual photos. One of the group photos we shan't repeat about, Taylor. So it's quite an interesting, very funny moment.
What stays on? What happens on Milsim stays on Milsim.
I can't talk about it on here. It's not appropriate. I'll send you the picture when I get it. I'll send it to you. But then the Germans then went into routine. So, sorry.
Did you see? Because I know you were kind of embedded with the US side of things. Did you see the advantages of the training that you ran through with them the next day?
During the night, yes. And then the rally point, yes. And moving across the open fields at the beginning, yes. And then it started to slip off. I think because the guys got so fatigued that they did revert straight back to airsofter as soon as a bullet was fired, which is understandable. But I think that with more training, we could, probably stamp that out. There was some people who took it on. I spoke to Will today and we were talking about it. And Will said that there was actually some guys in his section that were saying, hold on, Dan didn't tell us to do it like that. He said to do it like this. So it was good. It was sticking with some people. But all in all, yeah, I mean, I did see a lot of stuff repeated that they had learned the day before. It did work. But then there was points where it kind of fell apart very quickly because of fatigue, but that's understandable.
Yeah. The best those plans always fail in the first engagement anyway. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can come up with the most elaborate plan you want. As soon as you get contacted, it's gone. That's it. Because you can't anticipate what the enemy's going to do. They could be completely unpredictable, which they were. So. Yeah.
Damn Germans.
I know. How dare they ruin our invasion plans? I think to quote one of the players, Max, bless him, he said, I was on holiday in France and then suddenly these invaders came, ruined my holiday. So.
James has just said to James on the German side, he said the Germans did some drills, patrolling, battle tactics, building defense positions.
Yeah, so. I did see them. They did do an exercise against themselves, learning how to cross a bridge. That was quite good to see, actually, from the top of the hill. I was looking down at you, Jim. It was quite impressive to watch. Sort of like the equivalent of using blanks on each other. So it was force on force. It's quite interesting. I don't think I came across any built-up positions, but I wouldn't have seen them by the time I got there. I was so far behind.
Yeah, there were some. We've got photos of them.
That's cool.
We found them.
Yeah. I would like to point out we got lost for about 20 minutes trying to find the Germans at one point.
Really?
And
we must have walked past each other.
Yeah, because we came across the little bridge, Jamie's Bridge, at the site.
Yeah.
And then we had the choice of going straight up the hill or left. So we thought, I think to be fair, we went left because it's the bottom of the valley. We weren't going to walk up the hill. So we just walked right the way down that road for no reason. And then we were like, I think we better go back. And then we had a firefight. So we were like, right, we're going that way.
Yeah. I think I remember seeing you walk past me. And that was the last time I saw you. I didn't see anything else after that.
Yeah.
Well, you were so deep in conversation planning how to move onto the bridge. We were like, oh, we'll just meet them on the other side, and then disappeared. That was it. It was gone.
I don't remember a lot, actually. Like, I don't remember much after leaving that rally point. It was just sort of, because I was fatigued as well. I can't even tell you how much I hallucinated through the night, along with everyone else. We were all seeing shapes and probably falling asleep walking and stuff like that. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't really remember much from that morning, other than just like when I look at the pictures, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that bit. I remember going down that hill. Yeah.
Just.
So there's a question coming from Harry, which I'll come to in a second. But one particular point I did just want to kind of discuss. So whilst we were there sort of talking to both sides, there was a kind of a caution, or a kind of I guess a caution with some of the Germans kind of wanting to be interviewed and stuff like that, because I think there is still this kind of stigma around it. But there was a particular point that I wanted to just bring up, which was, and I can't remember who made it, but they said, it would be boring if it was just everyone rocking up as the British or just the Americans or things like that, because ultimately, it's a reenactment event. There are two sides, and I must say, I think it was done very tastefully, if that makes sense, without that sounding condescending. But I mean, I've seen at War and Peace and sort of some of these shows, you've got Gestapo officers and SS kind of wandering around, and there's that kind of whereas for me, like, just being able to kind of witness both sides, it wasn't like some milsim events where you get people dressing as Taliban and stuff like that, kind of just taking the piss out of it. Like, it was done in my mind quite as a kind of like, we're just here to represent them, and we're kind of learning a bit about that. And it was fascinating to see some of the bits of kit that you obviously all kind of had out, from both sides, and it was all, as far as I'm aware, kind of like based on the real steel stuff. I mean, you've got and I'm never going to remember the name of it because it was like all letters and numbers. The truck, the vehicle, the armored vehicle.
Oh, the 223 that Jim built. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually a Land Rover Discovery at some point.
Yes. We went into, I was like, I opened it up and I went, this is a Land Rover, isn't it? And he went, yeah.
But I mean, just that's wicked. It was so interesting just to kind of see it all work together. And I mean, we were talking to the guys playing the Luftwaffe, and again, I'm not a complete history buff.
The Luftwaffe is flak section. Yeah.
But they were teaching us. I was learning. It was great. I was just like, tell me more about this, and it was fascinating. So yeah,
it's a bit like that. It's a bit like that. Like I said, because like most milsims, you separate both teams, and both teams don't speak to each other, and then also you get small teams within a team working closely together that won't speak to another section, for instance. And we just don't seem to have that problem because we have the socials. Obviously, you still get the odd few that won't socialize, each to their own. But largely, everyone talks to everyone, which makes a huge difference. And anyone who comes will get welcomed into it. For instance, like you guys turning up, and I imagine Mike and his Luftwaffe guys literally just jumping on you and be like, come and join us. That's it. Here's a uniform, put this on.
But I think also as well, I think a lot of people do generally forget that a lot of the soldiers, especially frontline soldiers, a lot of them were from other countries. They didn't even know what was going on with other sections or like the Holocaust side of things. And I think people just seem to tarnish every branch with the same sort of distaste. But many, like, at the end of the day, like, I've always been told by a lot of vets now, and when I used to do my reenactment and met some, they were like, to be honest, it was you and your friends just trying to get through it without ending up going home in a box. And I think tarnishing every German reenactor or sim player or whatever you want to describe him as having a underlying point of view is, to me, just mind blowing. Because it's not like you're there to represent.
One of the big things we do to avoid that sort of thing is we just don't allow politics. Like, if you want to talk about politics, go somewhere else. Like, I won't allow it on the Facebook groups. I won't allow it at events either. Like, don't speak to me about politics. I don't care. Like, I just don't care. Like, we're here to have fun. We're here to learn about a specific battle, and we're here to get a good experience and learn about the kit and appreciate the kit and appreciate how crap boots were 80 years ago. Which I've really learned this weekend. The
jump boots are awful.
all boots of that period are awful.
No, I quite like the buckle boots were comfy.
Oh, really?
I do like the 1943 buckle boots.
I have to try some, but so one of the things we do to get around it is we just don't talk about politics. So when you say about it being tasteful in the German headquarters or wherever it is that you're stood, it's because there's no political conversations going on. Because politics always ends in an argument, always.
Yep, always.
So yeah, and
I
think
so I will just clarify, by tasteful, I don't mean in terms of like, you know, it was sanitized or whitewashed or anything like that. Like there was obviously you've got your swastikas and stuff up everywhere, because I get it, you're reenacting that period. What I'm trying to convey is the fact that it was done respectfully. Because as I say, I've been to an event where there were people playing Taliban and they were just taking it as a stereotypical piss take, and you know they don't really understand some of the things that they're saying and trying to portray and stuff like that. Whereas with being there, it really felt like they were, you know. And one of the Germans gave me a bacon sandwich as well, which also helped. So
I can even tell you who it was as well. Like, I just know straight away. So
yeah, we walked in and he went bacon sandwich, and one was like, "Hell yeah!"
Yes, please.
Yeah, just don't ask him where he got the bacon from.
Yeah.
Why is that bloke's bed space empty?
Yeah.
One thing I did want to kind of mention in terms of the actual staying over. So where you guys landed with kit, you know, and your kit lists based on the originals and stuff like that, because a lot of people, obviously, when they go to more modern mil sims, they're turning up with like the bashers and bits and pieces. Can you talk us through kind of like what both sides kind of slept with, like their kind of sleeping kit?
Well, I can definitely tell you what the Americans had. When it comes to the German kit, I remember writing the list for it, but I know they had a lot more niceties because the American players only had what they could carry in their kit, whereas the Germans had the luxury of setting up in a central location. But what you can see in that picture there is effectively a 4-part Zeltbahn tent, and it's literally just buttoned together with a pole in the middle and a helmet on top to stop the rain going in. As far as I'm concerned, at our events, if you want to sleep in the game area and you set one of those up and you hide all your modern stuff inside it, that's absolutely fine, because from the outside, it looks perfect. And there's no public there to go snooping around the inside to find out, you know, oh God, he's got the wrong type of underwear in here. So
step one,
you know, things like that I'm not bothered about. With the American side, I can obviously go into more detail because I was there with them. The essential things they needed from the point where we finished orders was 2 meals, even though the Americans only jumped in with 1. They needed 2 meals, a breakfast and a lunch. I, for instance, had mine in my leg pockets. In my musette bag on the back, I had a pair of spare socks, a pair of Gore-Tex socks, a woolly hat, some warm gloves, a t-shirt, a service shirt, a jumper, and a poncho, and that was it. Oh, and an emergency flashlight, just in case my other one failed. That was it. And I then taught them that when we get to the rally point, what you're going to do is when we leave here, you're going to leave with just your M42 jump jacket on, because you're going to sweat and it's going to get wet. If you have other layers on underneath that, they're going to get wet. And then when you stop, you're going to get cold. So I taught them that when they get to the rally point, they take the M42 jacket off, put the t-shirt on, put the service shirt on, put the jumper on, put the jacket back on, then put their warm hat and gloves on, and then effectively just put a poncho on the floor and wrap themselves up in it and go to sleep. That's all I did. And I was actually quite comfortable. But then I'm a bit rats and a bit used to it. So, yeah, so that's literally all they had on them, minus their ammunition and water, which is very, very sort of light scales. At a normal mil sim, you'd be looked at like you're a nutter for turning up without a sleeping bag and without other various bits of, you know, comfies, we'll call them. But I really wanted these guys to experience that. You know, they didn't have sleeping bags with them.
No, they jumped out of a plane. They literally just jumped out of a plane and grabbed
straight,
what they could.
You know, straight into hard routine until your bedding can catch up with you, which is currently sat on a ship. So, you know, it's pretty mental. I just wanted them to feel that, and they did. And I really think they appreciated, if not at the time, definitely now in hindsight, what I tried to do for it. So yeah, it was pretty realistic. You probably have more warm kit than what they had.
Yeah.
So, but then it was quite cold on June 6, 1944. It was a cold sort of day, and I believe they jumped in a lot more warm clothing underneath what they were wearing, according to the packing list. Whether they actually did it or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of them jump with jumpers and extra socks on and things like that.
Yeah, one of the guys in the community, Morgan, actually created a baseball jumper, based off one of the original photos. I don't know if you guys saw that while you were there.
No,
he had like a blue hoodie on underneath his jumpsuit, and that's actually based on a guy called Forrest Guff, who had actually he jumped in with a jumper on, baseball jumper. So he didn't wear it while he was out on patrol, but in the admin area, he had it on.
Yeah.
And that was really, really cool to see. It was actually really nice to see it in the game zone, but in the rally point where they were doing their admin. So yeah, so it's like really, really close to the real thing.
Yeah, because there's so many pictures online that you can pull inspiration from. He's probably one of the first most documented war episodes, you could say. The D-Day landings. There was journalists and videographers jumping in with the parachute regiment. Like there's like in that first couple of days, you don't, even now you don't really see that. They wanted as much documentation as possible.
But yeah, I mean, doing the good fight, aren't they?
Yeah, getting all the info, like being able to build a kit list, you can quite easily do it from just pictures as well. I think.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we always say is like find a picture, an original picture, and copy it. If that's what you want to do, or buy a book and read about what they actually wore. I must admit that I fell foul of that. When I first started, I just bought everything I could fucking find. And it's only over time you realise how much money you've wasted on things that you didn't actually need.
Yeah,
I think that's Airsoft as a whole.
No, yeah.
I mean, it's funnily enough, when we were at Shifty Rift, and someone came over and said, "Oh, that kit must be really expensive," and he was wearing Cry with a really expensive M4 with loads of bits on it. And I was like, "Just tell me how much money you've spent on that, and I'll tell you if I spent more or less." And he told me, and I was like, "I definitely spent less than you did." Like, but it doesn't have to be expensive. But yeah, like you said, you can find images, you can find video, you can find documentation of what people were wearing. But soldiers being soldiers, a lot of soldiers, they don't really care about the rules sometimes. It's nighttime and no one's going to see what I'm doing, so I'm going to do something different.
Yeah.
And again, the field mods I touched on earlier, guys were taping things up or modifying bits of kit because they realized through the day while they were training that the kit moves or straps are going to break. So they were doing things to stop that from happening in the night because it had happened to them in the daytime. And that was also like really, really good to see. And I wonder if these sort of things were happening on the evening of D-Day. They were like, "Oh, make sure you tape these up. Remember when it broke, when we were on training or whatever, tape them up." Their platoon sergeants would have been all over it. Make sure this is done. Make sure that's done. Make sure that's packed correctly. Make sure that your poncho's on top because you're going to need that. And that's why we went through the lessons the way we did, because injecting my 13 years of experience, albeit very little, it does help them just a little bit. Start to waffle.
It's wicked.
No, it was good. I was genuinely listening. I mean, we were watching, and I know that we were both kind of getting quite excited just from watching it. Like, oh yeah, this is quite cool. What I wanted to say is, you mentioned that you obviously dropped them in kind of like a scatter to try and to represent those misdrops. How did that kind of play out?
So obviously, when people go to an airsoft game, they all want to play with their friends, and people, they got to decide what sections they were in, what squads they were in, which is cool. I don't mind that. But it happens all the time. And I thought, why not jumble this up? So before we did the orders, we got everyone lined up in alphabetical order, and we numbered them off from 1 to 3, and that would be their team for the navigation at night. So they were with people they'd never worked with before. If they were lucky, they were with someone they knew. And that was their team of 3. And obviously, you have to put stronger people with weaker people. So a couple of people did get moved around to sort of balance it out a little bit. I think we had 2 groups of 4, and everyone else was in, groups of 3. And then one of those 3 would not have a weapon. So they put a bit of tape on the stock, write the name on it, and leave it in the barn. And then at 12 o'clock, the group of Pathfinders who I was with, we left first. We had to go and set up the rally point, set up the Pathfinder marking light. So if they approached from the east, they could then see where the rally point was. Once the Pathfinders had left, the other groups left in 10-minute intervals in groups of 3. We did that intentionally, hoping that what would happen was they'd get a little bit lost and really feel isolated, especially in the dark. I mean, at some point, at some parts of the site, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And that was really, really good for me. For some people, it's like, if you've never been in that situation before, it's quite nerve-wracking. When you suddenly got only 3 of you and you need to keep an eye on each other and you need to stick quite closely together, how do you do that in the dark if you've never done it? So I think a lot of people were out of their comfort zones. And they had to get to 2 checkpoints, and they were both on the southern side of the site, and they had to get across these bridges to get there. And I told them in the debrief afterwards there wasn't any checkpoints. I didn't put any out. I gave them grids for them, and I said to them, you look for it for 5 minutes and then move on. And I wanted to see if anyone would come back to me and say, yeah, I found a checkpoint. I'd be like, you lied. There wasn't any. But yeah, so I didn't put any checkpoints out. I just wanted to see if they could get out there, navigate their way around, and then get back. And none of them got lost. And that really, really surprised me. I did give them a cut-off of 03:30 because the sun would be coming up at 4, which they knew, again, from orders. They knew what time the sun would come up. They knew what time it would set. They knew what the moon state was because I told them. So they had all the information they needed, and they went and they did it successfully. And one of the other things was they couldn't get across these bridges. So let's say we've got 6 teams out, plus the Pathfinders, and they've all gone different directions. So some of them have tried to go to the same bridge, some of them have tried to go to different bridges, some of them have tried to go across the river. And you've got all these small teams out, and they're all watching the Germans from different angles. So each small team, when they came in, felt like they'd failed because they hadn't got across these bridges. However, each small team had picked up a tiny little bit of information from a different perspective, and they told their section commanders. And when the section commanders came together with me and we started to talk about it, we used Slam Mag, and we actually built up a battle picture of what the Germans were doing, what their morale was like, how many there were, where were their strengths and weaknesses, what vehicles they were using. I didn't even know there was a motorbike on site until someone told me, because I didn't see it turn up. So, little things like that, it just builds up this huge battle picture, and it all starts to come together. Another thing about the nighttime that really blew me away is when the guys were talking about coming across another American patrol. And speaking from first-hand experience, we walked up a track on the way to one of the objectives. And on the way back, I was walking down this track and I was looking at it. I was like, I don't remember there being a wreckage there. And as we got closer and closer and closer, we literally stood on top of them before we realized it was another patrol. And we all stood there going, thunder, 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 thunder. And it was like a real panic because we just stumbled across someone. And it was a load of blokes underneath a poncho trying to do a nav check. So, and there was other groups who were passing each other in the night, and they were using their clickers, and they were trying to get responses, and eventually they get a response because they were too scared to move. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. Like, you couldn't have recreated that if they'd have gone out in their sections of 8 or 6. Sorry, it wouldn't have been the same. If I'd have given them all a weapon and said, right, yeah, go and attack the Germans, it wouldn't have been the same. We wouldn't have experienced that. And the real experience is about survival. Once you've landed on the ground, you've got to survive. You've got to survive. You've got to get to the rally point. If you can't survive, you're useless. You're no use if you're dead. And then you're, as I would say, jacking on your mates, aren't you? You're making them take your workload. Not necessarily when it comes to attacking a position, but when it comes to doing stag. There was 8 of us. There's now 5. I now have to do 2 hours of stag instead of 1, so I get less sleep. You jacked on me. So, it's one of those things. Yeah. So, yeah. So I think the stuff they did through the night was on another level, and that's why it worked so well, because they were in such small groups, because it gave them that fear.
That's a
I'm
cool
not too
idea.
sure how
I
it.
like
I'm not too sure what went wrong with the Germans. The Germans were supposed to patrol with one section and have a section guarding things and one section on rest. And we ended up with two sections of Germans stagging on bridges, which stopped us from getting over. But it didn't mess anything up because the guys thought it was, a challenge, and they managed to get the information. So, to me, it wasn't a failure. It worked. There are times where you'll do a reconnaissance and there'll be nothing there. So, what difference does it make if you got there or not? You still found the information that we needed.
So, obviously, having talked about all of this, and I know I've got a little bit of a fizz on, going, this is proper cool. How would someone, you've got someone that does skirmishing. They've watched this and gone, oh, that's a bit of me. How do they go from I've got an M4, a tracksuit and some boots, to I'm now in the middle of the woods with my mate Dan, pretending to be a US paratrooper or a German Luftwaffe or the like?
All I'll say is message me and then come and get in here, and I'll just I'll take you under my wing. I'll look after you. No, first of all, send us an email. If you're on Facebook, get us on Facebook. Okay, I'm always posting stuff. You always find my name everywhere. I'm sick of seeing my own name. Other people must be. Send us a message. Speak to us first about what it is you're interested in, and I'll try and explain it to you as best I can. We've recently just rebuilt the website for people who want to get into it, and we've got this loadout section. I don't know if you can pull it up, one of you two.
I can. Yeah, give me 2 seconds.
You can pull up the website, and we'll talk them through it if anyone's interested in doing it.
Plus, eBay's your friend.
Keep talking while I'm doing it.
eBay's good. If you know what you're looking for, it's good, but you need somewhere to start. Other than just looking at reference pictures or getting a book, you need to speak to people within our community about, where can I find the best reproduction stuff? Where can I find X, Y, and Z? Oh, actually, sometimes if you look on our Discord, you'll find that people are selling a wide range of kit from all different countries. But it doesn't have to be expensive. Buy used stuff.
Yeah.
Buy used stuff, because then if you ruin it, it doesn't matter. And 9 times out of 10, someone's already weathered it for you as well. Okay, so wow, your website's come up different.
Yeah, sorry, you'll have to bear with me. I tried scaling it down, and then I've messed it up.
he's broken it.
Okay, so there we go. Okay, so looking at the website there, this is all now designed to help people. So as you scroll down the website for me, go on, keep going. You can see there's a video there from a previous event. So you click on that, and it will play a YouTube video, and then it's got the next event there as you scroll down. So our first Vietnam game is the next game, and that's the end of this month. If you keep going down, we've got frequently asked questions, which, judging by the questions I get all the time, people aren't using. I can only put that down to people just not knowing it's there. And then we've got a contact form. Okay, so if you're not on Facebook, you can send us an email directly that way. My phone number's there, and then the company email address is just underneath that. And if you look on the left-hand side, we've got something there that's called the loadout section. So if you click on loadouts, we've got a small spiel which basically says, why are loadouts important? One, it's to do it respectfully, like you guys have mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, it's a good way of identifying who your enemy is. A really good way of identifying them. A German helmet is massively different to a British Brody helmet, for instance. Okay, so moving on then. So you come down the page and you look at joining a nation. Pick one. Who would you want to be?
Well, we'll go with Great Britain, just because it's the one in the middle.
Yeah, so we picked Great Britain, and straight away what we've got there is an infantryman. It doesn't matter what badge he's got on his sleeves. What it is there is a kit rundown. So you've got little arrows there showing you, what is this guy wearing, and a small description. And as you scroll down the page, what you've then got is an itemized list of exactly what the guy's using. And you can see there's not actually a lot of kit.
No.
So when a lot of people say to us, oh, but it's really expensive. It's not. That's There's nothing there. If you scroll back up the page again and go to British Airborne, so if you go to Paratrooper, again, it changes the image to what the guy's wearing, and then again, a different kit list is broken down beneath him.
Mhm.
So for people who are just starting out, this is a really useful tool for them to go and have a look at. And okay, it's not living history standards, but it's good enough for what we do. As a matter of fact, if you turn up at these standards, you're pretty much
yeah.
you're already really far up there if you turn up looking like this. So that's my only advice, really. Message us, and I will guide you to the website, and I'll say, look, go and have a look at the website, look at a country that interests you, and then let me know what you think. And if you want advice on buying things, speak to us first. Speak to someone before you buy it, because we might be able to help you out. We might be able to get you a discount on something. But yeah, I mean, that's all nations. It's still a work in progress. There's still things being added. I think the most recent ones on there is actually Japan. The Japanese Reenactment Association kindly donated these images to us for Japanese loadouts, because we're doing our first Pacific game in August. And many of them are coming down for it. And that's, really authentic on its own. And their kits are absolutely fantastic. And again, there's a breakdown of the kit. So yeah, if you're interested in doing it, message us, email us, get in contact somehow, add yourself to the community pages, and just ask questions. That's the best way to get into it. It's not hard. We're a big family. We'll look after you.
They don't bite much.
Yeah. But my only rule is just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just don't be a dick.
So if you want to get onto the Frontline website, it's frontlineevent.co.uk. I'll put a little link on the screen as well and in the chat. So yeah, you can also check them out on Instagram at Frontline Events UK. So I'd highly recommend jumping on there as well. But yeah, there's the website there, frontlineevent.co.uk. We've got a load of questions, Dan, that have been sort of coming in. So if you're okay to answer some of those. So I'll go back to Harry's one first. I saw on socials a heated debate about beards not being appropriate for World War II period events. What are your views? So this is actually in the frequently asked questions.
Yes.
If we should revert back to the website very quickly, and you'll see the exact official.
You've ruined him now.
Hang on. I can't do things quickly. Right, hang on.
See smoke coming out your ears, mate.
Yeah, I know. It's because you've offered to do something quickly.
I like it when you throw him under the bus like that, Dan. You should come on more often.
Right. There you go. Okay. Right. Frequently answered. So, I know what this was. There we go.
Okay, so looking at go on then, loadouts. Let's click on loadouts. Okay. Can I have a beard? Look at that right at the top. Okay. You can have a beard. You're a civilian and you are free to make your own choices. That being said, we would prefer it if people did not have beards. We would prefer it if you didn't have a beard. Ideally 1 or 2 days stubble or a really alley mustache. Okay. But if you want a beard, you have a beard. No one's going to tell you to shave it off. We're not living history at the end of the day. It depends on your own personal sort of, let's say, personal pride. When you did an event like last weekend, the majority of people shaved them off because they wanted to look the part.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do it respectfully. But no one's going to make you shave your beard off. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Is it Harry?
It also depends on what theatre you're going in. Like we did. If you look at some of the pictures of, say, the Ardennes or Bastogne, where they were out in a combat situation for weeks without actually getting relieved. We've
and a short water.
Yeah, like a lot of them were bearded.
You'll see it in multiple pictures. You'll see people with beards, no matter what battle it is and what front.
Do your research. It's just like if you're going to do D-Day, chances are 90%, 99.9% of them were clean shaven because you were sitting in England 24 hours ago. And
the same for the German soldiers as well, who were sat in garrison. And I'll tell you, when the hierarchy get bored, they come up with some wafty ways of keeping you occupied. So You know, it's the same sort of thing. You know, they would have been sat in garrisons, they would have been shaving, they'd have had an abundance of water. But the moment that invasion started and they started their rapid withdrawal back to Germany, I don't think they would have been shaving. They wouldn't have been stopping to worry about that. You know,
No.
Get there alive would be the priority. And with what little water you've got, use that for drinking, not washing. Like, like seriously. So yeah, we don't have a problem with beards. Yes, we'd prefer it if you didn't. However, if you have a beard, no one's going to bully you for it.
It took me ages to hear this.
That's not even a beard. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying.
Can you not grow it anywhere else?
No, that's it, mate. This is literally it. I just get under chin.
Under chin.
Imagine how much he saves on razors.
I know. Just get the cat to lick it off. It's great.
Or just do what do what Andy's done and just don't even bother shaving it. Like,
nah.
Yeah.
I could save a fortune then as well.
Just to clarify, this is it's not like I'm shaving the sides of it. This is it. I can't even grow. It doesn't grow under my lip to my bottom of my chin. It's a nightmare. Anyway, enough about me. Fresh Meat says, question, sounds like a really good event. Did you say you would be doing another one? Doing another year? Would you be doing another year?
Yes, we are. Fresh Meat. Another nickname. I want to know how you got that one. So I'm actually sat here. I'm actually sat here wearing something that I'll be wearing for next year's 36-hour milsim. So if anyone knows what it is, they will then know what next year's event might be, and it will be set on D-Day. So if anyone knows what it is, stick it up in the comments. We'll see if you get it. But yes, there will be one next year. We have started loosely planning already, especially how to build up some prefab bunkers. I'm excited already. I'm excited for next year. Hence why I'm wearing this already. I'm sleeping in this. This is it. This is my pajamas now until next year.
So is there going to be a year where you're going to have them sitting on a boat Friday?
I wish.
In the sea.
I really do.
We've
spoke about it.
We
spoke about private beaches and landing craft and all kinds of things. We spoke about it. I would love to do that. You know, there are private beaches and there are people with vehicles. Yeah, I would love to. But at the moment, I don't have the resources.
I've got it in my head that you kind of get a skip and like cut out one end of it, and there's just like guys with water pistols just like spraying water over the side.
You laugh, but you know those things would work. You know, I had a dream a long time ago that we could have built a C-47 fuselage in a tree and put people up in it and zip line them out. You know, with speakers in the plane, it would have been phenomenal. But we don't have any land to do it. If I had permanent land, I would 100% be commissioning a C-47 to be built in a tree, or at the top of a hill, and then it would serve as a double purpose.
Right, yeah.
So you'd be thrown out of it on one side, but on the other side it would be crashed, so that in the morning you could come to it, and it would then be a rally point, and you could set up, you know, parachutes under the wings and stuff like that. You know, I've got full of ideas. I just don't have any land or money
or sea, or private beach. Or
so yeah, next year definitely going ahead. And if anyone knows what it is, just from what I'm wearing, then please stick it in the comments. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm just trying to think which area because it's not going to be. If you say it is D-Day, so you're going to stick with a D-Day. I have to do a little bit of.
See, I'm not naive to history, but I am not enough of a buff to be able to just kind of come up with it. I'd have to do an awful lot of research.
It's a very famous one, and it did feature in one of the latest Call of Duties. So,
okay. You see, that's now you're talking my language, Dan. I can probably work that one out. I'll have to work on that one.
Is it something like Swan Bridge or something?
I'm not saying anything. Just when you get it.
You can guess. You can guess all you want, but I'm not going to tell you what it is.
I want to see if anyone in the comments can get it. I want to see if they're like, oh yeah, it's this one. I'm pretty sure some of them will, because I did mention it. Whether they remember, because I do drone on a lot. So
James says he's going to let someone else answer it.
So Jim remembers. Okay.
Right, just go through some of the other comments and bits and pieces. Apologies, this is right from the start of the episode. Pekka says, did you guys kill Lance and he is at work as a cover? No, we didn't. He is alive.
I wonder if that's what that robot's for in the garden, isn't it, Andy? Where you've planted fresh grass, now you need it all to look the same.
Yeah, there's a perfect shape that grows really well.
Daniel Brewer says the event sounds amazing. So yeah, I can echo that. Chris says, evening, I tried to find you on Insta, but no joy. So Chris, for you, at Frontline Events UK. There you go. Anthony Airsoft, I don't think my knees could take it more than once a year. So there you go.
I've been talking to our community about it. Literally, you don't have to do running, okay? You need to build up your leg strength. Squats, pole squats, calf raises. I do 100 on a Thursday and 100 on a Tuesday just to keep my legs sort of strong-ish. And that's just body weight. That's without going to the gym as well. And running and cardio. Cycling, really good for you. Swimming, really good for your cardio. Just get out and do a little bit. You don't have to do loads. Even if you only do like one hard run a week, but it's got to be hard.
Sorry, me and Andy were sitting here nodding along like, yeah, this is super. Yeah, you definitely need to be on that.
Yeah, do it.
Don't
go by our example.
Very, very basic level of fitness. It doesn't need to be much, but because it's something you're not used to, sleep depth and that level of fatigue, it makes everything feel so much worse. And of course, you can get ill from it as well. Your immune system suffers straight away. Especially if
sleep depth's horrible. Oh, yeah, it's just fun. Yeah, it's horrible. And we choose to do it, which says something weird about us, don't we?
Well, so do I. I do it for work, and then I come and do it at the weekend as well.
Yeah, so that's even worse.
What are you doing?
Taylor says Saturday was amazing. Sitting around in a hollow square inside our sections, eating MREs and chatting amongst friends and being called up for a training section at a time was absolutely brilliant. Harry says, we've had Jay and Morgan, who I believe are Frontline regulars at my site at Tuddenham. We're really looking forward to doing a future event at Frontline. It looks awesome. Anthony said Mike could get a proper searchlight. They're right. So there was a conversation I was having with the Luftwaffe guys because they were saying, wouldn't it be cool to get like a big searchlight? And Andy was saying how when he was doing like reenactment stuff, there was a guy that like cooked bacon on them. And all I was thinking is, I can't.
Was it soggy afterwards? It can't have been that hot. Sorry, go on.
Go on, Andy.
No, I'm fine. I'm just laughing.
But we were just, in terms of the spotlight and stuff, I was like, I just love a big searchlight at an event. It'd be great. Just like pan it around and actually see people. Proper kill off. And I'm not talking like a World War II one. I'm talking like modern day. I just want a big light.
Like literally X-rays you as it comes round.
Melts you.
I'll tell you what, though, you don't even need stuff like that. I mean, so me and the Pathfinder guys, we managed to get around. We kind of used the boundary road to get over one of the bridges that they weren't manning. And we went all the way around the back to the southern side, and we managed to get as close to the German headquarters as we could. And they had a spidey sense, we'll call it, where they thought maybe there's something over there. And they turned the motorbike on and they spanned the headlight around. And as the headlight came around, 1950s headlights, they're not that good, but it was enough to make us crap ourselves.
Yeah.
We were all sat in a bush going, right, now we're too close for comfort. Let's get out of here. As soon as that headlight's off us, let's leave. So, yeah, I mean, there's loads of things you can use as an alternate to the big X-ray spotlight.
I've been looking at the world's greatest torchlight on or flashlight or whatever on Amazon, which is the big thing.
Sorry, just to clarify, you did say flashlight, didn't you?
Flashlight. Yeah, get it set up on a tripod and just spin that around. It'd be great. Anyway, John Nesbitt says, we felt it in terms of the camping out. So yeah.
Yeah, I felt it. I was in rag as well, but I just can't show you guys.
Taylor said, me, Will, Torrin and Ed was the last stack to leave. It was so difficult to navigate in the pitch black. We didn't even make it to a CP in fear we would be captured or killed.
Amazing. That's exactly the feeling I wanted you to have. So,
Little Woodsy, one grouper couldn't cover the ground from my perspective at the time, so I pushed for a section to take each bridge, leaving a fire team on the bridge itself and one patrolling.
Cool.
And then I think this just sums it up. The community, this is from James, the community is amazing and so friendly. And then Anthony said the most important thing is a credit card.
That and you didn't hear it from me, but PayPal credit is.
Yeah.
That's got me out of a pinch a few times. So,
yeah. James says, nice smock you have on there, Dan.
oh yeah, it's a very nice smock. I might have just found it on eBay actually, as Andy said before. You know, having a look on eBay. It's actually a first run K's Canvas Denison smock, and they're a lot better made than the new ones. I wasn't going to let it go. I probably went higher than I should have done.
Right, last two. I'm conscious of the time, but last two things here. So from James, I think I had 3 hours sleep on Sunday morning. That 5 hour stag was long. And then Anthony's Airsoft said the main things I've taken away is that I need to make sure my helmet fits properly and isn't squashing my head and lip balm. My lips are still cracked now.
Yeah, that's from dehydration. You know, it doesn't matter how much water you drink, you're going to dehydrate. And if you overhydrate, you know, that's equally just as bad. So, yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, you just can't avoid some things, especially when you're out in the elements. It just messes your body up. There's nothing you can do about it.
No.
We're
not one of the big things.
Huh?
There must have been. There must have been. There was lipstick, so there must have been. You can wear lipstick if you want, Anthony.
You'd be the prettiest soldier.
Where's that picture again?
I don't suppose. Have you guys got any of the clips you can show from the morning from the rally point? Just I haven't actually seen them yet.
So I think Andy took most of the videos. I've just got, because I was running around with my little the most historical looking camera that I could find that I had, which was my wife's.
That's
so
quite
that was
a cool camera, though.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that you can pull the lever on it and it actually sticks out like the little pen, like, you know, I don't know a lot about cameras. It's the Instax one, so it's got like a little thing that it prints it out on. But I was so worried about breaking it. I was like, every time I wasn't taking pictures, I was like, right, put that away, keep that safe.
Just seeing, because the interviews haven't been cut yet, so they're still quite.
So she probably got me swearing in the background and stuff.
There's a lot of swearing in the background.
Andy, I'll bring your screen up so we can actually. I know you're flicking through. Oh, not yet. Okay.
Just looking at something else there.
Yeah. No.
That's a funny story about that, but that's for after the show.
Yeah. I've got a couple. Yeah. Throw me up. Let's have a look. There won't be any sound, I don't think. Does the sound work through this?
This is excellent podcast material. So what we're looking at basically here is the rally point. The guys are getting ready in the morning to head out. There was you got all your section leaders all together, and you know, you were obviously talking through, Dan, the kind of strategy and where you were going to be heading out to. And then the video we're watching at the moment, it's available on YouTube or Facebook if you want to catch up and go and watch it. But this was the guys moving off. And Andy took a selfie. And
I took the first selfie.
Look at the two Johns there in the background. Go back. Look at so John and Ethan. Look at those war faces.
Yeah, they weren't happy.
Like that.
But when I was shown where they were, this was the first thing that I saw. Basically, just a couple. Like you'd have to know.
Yeah,
that
I couldn't believe it when we got to that rally point. I was like, this couldn't be better. And when I told the guys before we stepped off, you're all going to love the rally point. They were expecting like a barn with beds and other stuff.
Surprise.
And I felt so jack when they said to me, well, we were expecting like a barn and we thought you'd made like, you know, nice and comfy and that. And I thought, oh shit. Like, I felt really jack because in my opinion, when I said you're going to love it, I thought You're going to love it because it's concealed.
Yeah.
Not because it's comfortable.
So that was him having breakfast. Sleeping again. That's an interview.
Fantastic.
And that's them just getting ready first thing in the morning. I don't want to do the videos just yet because they haven't been cut or background edited yet. But yeah,
there'll be a lot of audio of Andy and me going, "Oh right, hang on, is the mic on?
Is the mic on? Are we doing this correctly?" It's a lot of this.
I think that's the first, Dad's holiday footage.
What's that?
Lovely.
Right, me and Nathan always giggle about that as well.
No worries. But we got Farmer.
They're quite trendy there, actually.
Yeah. Sexual Farmer.
Show me your daughter. You have a picture of your wife.
Angry Farmer.
It's surprising how little French that Andy and I know, because we were walking around sort of thinking, right, if we're going to try and be proper immersive, like we want to try and speak French. So we landed on Bonjour, où est la piscine, and the lyrics of Frère Jacques.
Yeah. And Coulé de Poulet was another one that.
And the voulez-vous avec moi ce soir.
Yeah.
So we just basically were saying sentences along those lines of just throwing random words in, which was quite good fun.
Au revoir.
You just want to worry when one of the guys obliges you and goes, "Yeah, all right." Yeah. Whoa, no, I didn't mean it.
And then there was the bit where I decided that no, I'm bored of being French. I'm now Italian. And I slipped from French straight into Italian. There was no,
except you didn't go Italian, Andy. You went into Pakistani, which was
and then something else, almost Canadian by the end of it. I was like, I've gone downhill now.
Yeah. So, Dan, we kind of put this idea to you on the spot whilst you were busy doing your current event and the like. But if you're ever open up to having sort of any civilian population or anything like that. Because I know that we could quite happily sit around eating cheese and wine and trading for money, all these French francs and everything like that. So just let us know next time.
So you're not the first people to come and say it. There are dramas with it. I'll have to probably write up like an individual rule set just for partisans. Otherwise, what you end up with is like a small rogue group that goes around and pretends that the Germans don't know who they are and then shoot them in the back.
Oh, no,
I did have an idea about it, that once you've attacked the Germans once, the Germans are then hunting for you. So you're then on the run, which would make it even more interesting, eating cheese and drinking wine in the bushes rather than out in the open.
Well, we weren't even talking about that. We were talking about just being farmers.
Yeah, just being farmers with cheese and wine all weekend. Getting a bit.
But there is a potential for it, definitely. And like I said, you're not the first people to hound me for French resistance and civilians. So I am looking into it. I just don't know quite how to implement it yet. Without my fear is that you'll get bored. That's the biggest fear, is having players turn up and get bored.
I'm telling you now, the best event that I've done, I was an asbestos remover for basically 24 hours. And genuinely, that was one of the best airsoft events that I've ever been to.
Wow.
Yeah. So actually, being
asbestos,
being a civ pop, you can actually get a lot out of it. Sometimes
it does sound like a French word, doesn't it? Asbestos.
Asbestos.
Could be a French.
Lad asbestos.
It means hucking your lungs up with blood. That's what it translates to.
From smoking as much as I do at a game. Yeah, that's what it is.
Right, we're probably coming to the end. I will just kind of leave it with Torin here. So what I enjoyed the most about the whole event was the way it built tension. The training and planning in the daytime gave a glimpse of what Easy Company did from Tokawa to Aldborn. Once the sun set and the briefing was done and the nerves set in, seeing torchlights and Germans yelling, vehicles moving and patrolling around, definitely the closest that you could get to the real thing. Which I think is a nice summary of it. So
one of the fantastic things that I'll just add to that. So normally when we do a game like this, not the 36-hour ones, but our normal games, it's slightly choreographed. We've got to make it go a certain way. Otherwise, you might not even find each other. And we want to encourage frontline battles, hence the name of the company. For this game, it was a different experience even for me, because I didn't know where the Germans were. So even I really enjoyed myself, and I was really excited because I didn't have a clue. I knew where the objectives might be, but I couldn't confirm it. And we even walked past some of the objectives in the night and didn't even know they were there. Someone else told us they were there. So, so what Torrin's saying there, I mean, it really was pretty close. I mean, I just didn't know. And if I didn't know, they definitely didn't know.
Yeah, because Mike said, "Oh, should we go and find the Germans?" I was like, "Yeah, let's just cut past them." And he went, "Let's ask Dan." I was like, "Dan doesn't know." I was like,
I don't have a clue.
Dan knows nothing at the moment.
Well, the problem is, we arrived. We had no idea what the site boundaries were. We didn't even know where the layout was, because we obviously.
Well, no. So I dropped the pin. I dropped the pin and sent it to Andy and said, "This is exactly where I'll be at 7 o'clock." Yeah. And Andy turned up, and I was like, "Oh, there we go. Here we are."
Yeah. See, I drove in through the village that was there, and then found a gate. So I was like, "Oh, this looks vaguely secluded." So I drove down there a little bit, and then messaged Andy, and he was like, "No, you didn't come that way." So I was like, "All right, fine." And then he sent me the pin. And as I was driving to the pin, I just saw this lonely French.
Huh?
Yeah.
You should have just sent him the pin first. It could have saved a lot of effort.
Yeah, well, I thought you sent it to both of us.
Yeah, he did.
I went, "Do you know the address, Mike?" I said, "Has Dan told you?" And he went, "Yeah."
I looked up,
sweet.
Yeah, I just looked up the address on the event.
Brilliant.
As I was driving along, I looked out into the fields on my right and saw this lonely German just walking across the field. I was like, "Well, I'm definitely in the right place."
Yeah.
Either that or I've gone to a whole different event. So, that was cool. It was proper cool.
That was brilliant.
If you want to get in touch with Dan, please feel free to do so at frontlineevent.co.uk. His Instagram as well is at Frontline Events at Frontline Events UK. They've got loads of content on there, and it's a proper buzzing community. We're not even really part of the community, and really sort of feel like we're able to kind of talk to people quite easily and stuff. So it's really nice, kind of slowly getting into it ourselves. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do so on our email at nofochat@hotmail.com. Our Instagram is at November_Foxtrot_NoFo, and the website is novemberfoxtrot.co.uk. If for whatever reason you can't find Frontline Events, let us know and we can point you in the right directions. You can contact us on our own individual Instagrams as well, at 9volt Airsoft, at @Quartermaster, and if you want to message Lance at the _punished_1_. There you go. Next week, we're going to be chatting what to expect from your first event. So we're going to be looking at sort of a holistic approach to mil sims, battle sims, and anything kind of within that realm, as to if you've never been to any of them before, what can you kind of expect? What kind of questions should you be asking? What questions might you not need to ask? Because hopefully that information should be there for you and sort of help you find that, as well as kind of talking through very simple kit lists. I mean, we're not going to kind of rehash old ground. So yeah, if you want to join us, we'll be back Wednesday, 8 o'clock next week. Dan, we normally have closing words, which is something that I think has been evolved since you were last on the show. So the closing words are basically a statement that summarizes the episode. It imparts wisdom and knowledge, or something along those lines. So would you like to have the honor of the closing words?
I've come up with some doozies. So there's so many funny things just went through my head there. So many different sayings.
You can choose whatever you want. Like, don't shit in a bucket with holes. Like that's one.
Don't eat yellow snow. And stay mofo.
Stay mofo, yeah. That's now my new ringtone for you.
And the signal drops out perfectly.
Yeah.
So hopefully you enjoyed the show. If you want to give us a little like, I don't know why I'm pointing up there. Only I can see that. We've got little. By all means, give us a little thumbs up.
Give us one of them.
Yeah, give us a little thumbs up or a heart or anything like that. It just helps us beat the algorithms on YouTube and Facebook and the like.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see you next week. Have a good week.
Yep.
Stay home, phone, and all that. And
always
Dan,
a pleasure, Dan. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, no worries. It's a pleasure.
Hopefully, we won't leave it till 2 or 3 years next time. We'll get you on this.
Yeah, stop running about other countries and things.
Yeah.
Stay here.
It's all going to stop. It's all going to stop. I've signed off. I'm out of the army in January, so that's it. More time to do what I want to do.
Oh, that's it. We're going to harass the shit out of you now.
Yeah, do it. I have nothing else to do.
Yeah, just run events.
Yeah. It's not a bad shout.
No, it's not a bad shout.
No. Right. We'll see you all next week. Have a good week. And yeah.
Thanks very much, guys.
Say goodbye, guys.
Bye, guys.
See you later.
Say NoFo. Ciao, Bella. Arrivederci.